Hey everyone, welcome to the day 2 of the Marketing Cloud Administrator Bootcamp. And thank you everyone for joining us. And I'm excited for today's session. Today we have Vicky joining us along with Gilda and Gina. And thanks to each of them for their support and all the efforts that they have put in. And in today's session, we're going to look at the subscriber data management. This takes about 18% of the exam, and we can expect around like 11 questions in this topic. And the individual topics covered in this section are about the contact model and the data quality and the preference center and the profile centers. These are really important concepts, even if not for the exam, to understand the basics, the fundamentals of the marketing cloud. These are very important. And I'm sure Vicky has put in the content in a very detailed manner that anybody would be able to understand, starting from the basics. And before we get started, just wanted to cover a few logistics. This session is being recorded, and we're going to share these recordings once the bootcamp concludes, maybe after 18th of November. And if you have any questions related to the logistics, like if you have any trouble joining the Slack channel or accessing the resources that we have shared, or you want to get more information, reach out to me, send me a direct message. And if you have any questions, technical questions related to this session, please post them in the chat window and we will address them at the end of the session. And if there are any unanswered questions, post them in the Slack channel. And we encourage you to use the bootcamp channel that we have created, MCA Bootcamp 21. Please use that channel to post anything related to this bootcamp. And we will be sharing all the resources related to the homework and some additional help documents in the respective channels, homework and resources. Please follow those channels as well for the updates. And please share your feedback, and if you want to hear about anything, if you want any other concepts to be covered in this during this bootcamp, let us know and share your feedback on the Slack channel or on the Twitter using the hashtag MC Learning Camp or tag PHXB2CUG. And as we mentioned in the day 1, if you have missed this announcement, we have 10 certification vouchers to give to the attendees. The attendees of at least 8 sessions out of the first 10 sessions, those who attend at least 8 of them would stand a chance to win one of the certification voucher. And this is available for the residents of US, including DC, and Canada, excluding Quebec. And when you join the meeting, make sure that you join using this join virtual event here. This is the button. If you join using this link, the attendance will be tracked, and we can track all the people who have attended all the sessions, 8 sessions at least. So if you do not see this button, make sure that you RSVP. So this is how the event page looks like when you just first look at the page. You will only see the RSVP button here, and you wouldn't see the link to join the session. So once you RSVP, you will this button will pop up, and then you will be able to join using this link. So on the Google Calendar, if you click on that link and if it directs to this page, then you click on this one, the attendance will be recorded. If you, I think that even directs to this one, and you will be able to click this link. And at the end of the bottom of the page as well, my apologies for this, this is not legible. This is the button at the bottom of the page. Here we have this Zoom details also. If you copy the Zoom details and use that to log in, that will not be tracked. So make sure that you click on the button. So I understand as of now, it's under the eligibility requirements, we cannot cover Germany, but all the other bootcamps that we have done before that were open for everybody. And maybe please watch out for the next sessions happening in this user group. We have vouchers planned for the next sessions as well. In the upcoming sessions, we will be able to give the certification vouchers to everybody. And now, without further ado, I will turn it over to Vicky. Vicky is going to cover about the subscriber data management, and after that, we will look at some of the sample questions, which is followed by question and answers. And you take it over, Vicky.
Awesome. I am just going to start sharing my screen, but thanks for the amazing introduction. And I'm so glad to be here with so many people from around the world. Those of you who are joining from Australia are troopers. I'm joining from France. It's a little bit late in the evening, but yeah, you're 6 a.m. I hope that you all have coffee. So I'm going to blow this up nice and big so that everybody can see it without squinting, no matter what time of the day it is by you. And like Jathana said, we are going to be covering day 2 today. So we're going to be talking all about data management. And this is a good day 2 topic because you come in, you start learning Marketing Cloud, you learn what the power of it is, what the functionality can do. But the very first thing we have to set after we've gotten our account set up, of course, is our data management and our data structure. Then you can start to go on to all of the fun creative stuff. But if you don't have the groundwork and if you don't have the data set up correctly, then all of the rest won't fall into place the right way for you, and you won't be able to use the data to the best of your ability. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And just a little intro for myself. I am a consultant and trainer. I'm just finishing up my time at Supermoms actually, and we'll be going into freelance contract consulting. And here's my Twitter handle. So if anybody wants to search for me on LinkedIn, my name, it comes up with only me basically. And then on Twitter, feel free to follow me. Feel free to ask any questions after this session as well. Let me know how you did on exams. I love to hear about people passing. And I'm a marketing champion, a certified instructor for Marketing Cloud. So I've been teaching different people around the Marketing Cloud product for about 2-3 years now. And I'm 11-time Salesforce certified. So if you have any questions about the core product, I'm here for you too. And not today, but we'll stay in the scope of this session for today. And I'm a 5 times ranger and 3-time mom. So I have a nice 7, 4, and 1-year-old at home, who are all hopefully staying in bed for this session. So if you hear any strange noises in the background, you know what's going on. So we're going to start off with subscriber data management. And as Jathana said, we're going to start with the very basics. We're going to assume that you've never seen Marketing Cloud before and start with what is a subscriber in the first place. So we already went through the exam guide a little bit. You have the different weightings here as well. So you can see this one is the second highest scoring section on the exam. So it is a really important one to give some of your focus to, especially if you're looking to pass the exam. Setup is going to be the big doozy there for you. So another thing to take note of here is this phrase, given a scenario. Given a scenario, it refers to the type of question that you can expect to see on the exam. Because the exam questions, they're all multiple choice. There's some pick 2, pick 3 answers. And the way that the questions are worded are sometimes the hardest part of starting to learn how to pass the exam. And they're often based around a customer scenario. So they're going to give you a business use case, and you're going to have to choose the best answer based off of the information you're provided. So you'll have a customer, they'll give you 2 or 3 facts about them, and you'll have to decide the best practice or the solution that you would suggest or the next steps you would take. One thing to keep in mind there is that they are testing your knowledge. So make sure that you read the question carefully. Sometimes it's just a couple of words in that customer scenario that end up making all of the difference in the answers. So make sure you're reading them carefully. We'll talk about the contact model today and the data quality. And then also all of these preference and profile center concepts, including attributes and data types and all of that fun stuff. So as promised, what is a subscriber in the first place? Well, we have little Astro here. Astro is going to be our customer for us today. So Astro is a person who has opted in to receive communications from your organization. And that's going to be very important for us because our subscriber is going to be somebody who opted in. Then we have a contact on the other hand. So a contact is going to be a little bit different from a subscriber in the definition, but we can see we still have the same Astro character here. So we're going to see why in a second. It's not that I just forgot to change the image on the slides. It's actually done on purpose. But a contact and contact builder, it's going to be an individual added to any contact database. So we're going to see that that actually means across any channel that we're using. When we talk about Marketing Cloud, we talk about all of this cross-channel communication, being able to communicate to the right customer with the right content at the right time. Well, part of that is in their preferred method of communication. Our customers, our subscribers, they all expect us to be communicating with them on their preferred channel. If they have shared with us that they prefer SMS, they're going to expect those text messages coming in and maybe bothered or completely ignore a message that's coming in through email and vice versa. So this is going to be an important fact to keep in mind as we're going through the next couple of slides. And it's also any individual to whom you sent a message via any channel in Marketing Cloud. So we're really getting into that cross-channel communication. So what's the difference between the two? All subscribers are contacts, but not all contacts are subscribers. So it's almost like thinking back to school days where you had those the analogies that we would have to go through and say one thing is like another, but what's the other answer? What's the other set of words? And this is the same thing. So you can have a subscriber. You cannot have a subscriber who is not a contact, but you may have a subscriber contact out there who is not a subscriber. And that is especially going to come into play if somebody has opted into communications. Here, let me go back for a second so I can get this nice sentence in front of us again. So if somebody has opted into communications, then they are a subscriber. That means that they're going to be a contact. But somebody may be in your system. They may have gotten there from an import that you did or just somebody adding them into the system, but they haven't opted into email yet or into any sort of messaging. So that means that they will be a contact, but not a subscriber yet. So do feel free to throw into the chat if there's any questions. I have one, what is our subscribers exactly? Yep, so I'm getting answers in here as well, that's awesome. Someone who has opted in to receive a message, exactly. They're a customer, they want to hear from us, they want to get our information. It may be through a form online that you're having them fill out on your website and then have that form bring them into a list as a subscriber in Marketing Cloud. Great. So I'm just going to try to keep an eye on the questions as we go through. Can leads be subscribers? Great question, Thomas. So leads are going to be a Salesforce terminology, and they're actually not a terminology that's used in Marketing Cloud. So Marketing Cloud does not separate leads from contacts. Everybody who, it's more around that opt-in status. So everybody who has opted in is opted in to get, is going to be a subscriber, whether they're a lead or a contact in Salesforce. We're not going to get into the Marketing Cloud Connect in the scope of this class, but that is the way that you'd be connecting those leads and contacts to our Marketing Cloud data. We'll see where you do that in a moment. That'll be the gist of it. So how do you identify a subscriber? We have what we call a subscriber key. And I have a picture of a key here because visual aids help when you're trying to remember different terminology and especially learn something new. It's going to be a unique value that identifies your subscriber. Now, it can be any value, and there's many different ways to make that subscriber key. So you may have it automated in some way with some external system you're using. If you're using the Marketing Cloud Connect, then it's going to be generating that subscriber key for you, and you'll be using your leader contact record ID. So there's a lot of great information out there about how to set up your subscriber keys. If you are not using the Marketing Cloud Connect, and I will let all of you have a nice Google search or ask on the Slack channel if you'd like to learn more about that. So do note that the subscriber key is limited to English characters only and shouldn't contain email addresses. This is going to be a best practice of not making your subscriber key an email address. And I may be jumping ahead of myself in the slides here, but think through this scenario. You have a husband and wife. They are not very tech savvy. They don't spend a lot of time on the computer. They share an email address. They have no interest in having a separate email address, the two of them. And they have shared bank accounts and everything like that. They share everything. Well, we want to be able to wish them a happy birthday and hold different information about them as an individual. If we were using the email address as a unique value, we wouldn't be able to have them sharing an email address and treat them as two different people. So that's one of the many reasons why you should not use an email address as the unique key. So what does the subscriber key determine? Well, the subscriber key, when it is inputted into the system, it's going to determine whether a subscriber you import or create exists in the system. That's going to be the unique identifier that we can use across many different places to see if they do exist. At the moment of send, if they do not exist on the all subscribers list already, then they'll be created there. And we'll see what the all subscribers list is in a moment. Whether a subscriber appears multiple times on a list, group, or data extension to be sent a message, the subscriber key is going to dedupe for us. It's going to deduplicate. It's going to make sure that there's not one individual who is not that case of a husband and wife that should be treated as two individuals, but actually the same person. If they're on the list 3 different times and they all have the same subscriber key, then they will only be sent to once. So you're only going to get one email rather than getting 3, 5, 7, 10, however many times that you're on that list. When a subscriber record, which subscriber record to update? When a subscriber accesses their profile center or subscription center. So once again, we're going to see what a profile center and a subscription center are in just a little bit. But they are going to be ways that we can have our customers interacting with their data. And then also which subscriber record to unsubscribe when a subscriber clicks the unsubscribe link in an email. That's really important for our CAN spam compliancy, for our GDPR, for any privacy policy, wherever we are in the world, you need to unsubscribe people correctly. So if the subscriber ID is not there, then we wouldn't be able to identify who we should unsubscribe in the first place. So we talked about the subscriber key. Well, we also have a unique identifier on the contact. That is going to be our contact key. So we have a little diagram here, and I tried to sketch it out a little bit so that we can follow through and see why we shouldn't use email addresses and phone numbers across the different channels as our subscriber key, even though it seems really tempting. Because a mobile number, yeah, everybody's got their own phone. That makes a really nice, unique identifier. Don't do it. So I have my little Astros here. He has an email address. And through Email Studio, he has opted into our email. We are going to add him to our all subscribers list in Marketing Cloud. And his subscriber key we'll put as astro@salesforce.com. Then we'll go through, and Astro is also going to opt into mobile messages. He has a phone number, 8675309, which when I say that out loud, some of you should start to sing a song in your head. Our subscriber key is going to be his mobile phone number without a dash in it. So that looks great at first, But yes, I see in the chat, some people have gotten it. So that looks good at first. But what ends up happening is we have two Astros here. And we can't see a 360-degree view of our Astro. His data is going to be very segmented. We're never going to get a full picture of how Astro has engaged with us on all channels. We'll be able to see all the email. We'll be able to see all of the phone and mobile engagement, but we won't be able to mix those two channels together and do our cross-channel communication. That's what we're trying to do as marketers in the first place. So if we come to our contact key and we give him a nice plushies 8364 as our contact key, well, then Astro can have his name, he can have his email, he can have his mobile number, but since he has a contact key that is going to be the same as the subscriber key on both channels, we'll use that plushies 8364 everywhere. That means we have a 360-degree view. So as promised, taking a step back, once we send to somebody in Email Studio, which is where we're going to be doing all of our email sending from in Marketing Cloud, then they're going to go on to what we call an all subscribers list. An all subscribers list is a master list of records for Marketing Cloud Email Studio accounts. And each time that you send to an individual within that studio, then your subscriber is going to appear on the all subscribers list. It is going to mandatorily in Email Studio contain the email address, subscriber key, and status. So that's going to be the opt-in status, whether they're opted in or opted out, and any additional attributes that we decide to create. So we'll see why and how we can create those in just a bit. All of our subscribers stored on data extensions, which are just tables of data in Marketing Cloud. Once again, we will get to those today, are going to join the all subscriber list as soon as you send them a first message. So you may have somebody who's sitting on a table of data, but until the moment that you send to them, they will be sitting out there in the ether. They will not be on your all subscribers list yet. The all subscribers list is going to be on the moment of send. And if a subscriber is unsubscribed from that all subscribers list, then that subscriber is unsubscribed from all lists and groups across all channels. So you're going to make sure that those are running correctly. So at this point, yes, I'm seeing some great questions in here. Do keys need to be manually assigned? And I'm seeing some good answers come in. They should not be manually assigned. You can do it. Just because you can do something does not mean you should. So you can manually add a key in, but imagine for every single contact that you're adding in, adding a key. We're talking marketing automation tools. We want to automate everything. So you're going to want to have an automated process to create your subscriber keys, to create your contact keys. And that's where you just want to make sure that all of your processes are using the same value. Pricing. I will leave pricing questions for Salesforce AEs, especially on a bootcamp like this. But one thing that your pricing does concern is your contact counts. So yes, that is a consideration there. So we're going to go ahead and hop into Marketing Cloud at this point, and we're going to go into Email Studio. And we're just going to take a look at where this all subscribers list is in the first place. So if you don't have access to Marketing Cloud, do come back, watch these demos. Feel free to ask me towards the end if there's anything else that you'd like to see that's related to our data management that we didn't cover in a demo. Always happy to show people around. So we have Email Studio. We have a few different tabs at the top. We're going to be interested in the subscribers tab today. So we have all subscribers here. This is going to be the list of all of your subscribers. So this is just a dummy account. It has myself and my family in here that I've thrown in. These are not real email addresses for them. So don't try emailing them. But we have all of them as active. So you can see the status. The email address is mandatory and the subscriber key. So yes, thank you, Gilda. All pricing messages goes through Salesforce AEs, and the Salesforce AE, as soon as you sign up for a Marketing Cloud account, you will be put in touch with somebody so they can answer all of those questions for you. Our subscriber key is here. I inputted it as a manual input. So I do not have automations here set up. I usually would use the Marketing Cloud Connect for these accounts. But just for the sake of these lessons today, I wanted to get some dummy data in here today. So I have my subscriber keys. I have some system information here as well. So we have the created date, we have the added date, we have who it's added by. So these were manual adds by me. You can see my user adding these in. And then our add method is going to be application. That is because I added them through the Marketing Cloud application. So you can see that on the all subscribers list, all of this system data is going to be giving us some very useful audit data as well. Our last modified date, and then who it was modified by. So you can create people individually. You can import into the all subscribers list. It is not recommended. The recommendation would be to import into a data extension. And that way you're only getting people in that on the moment of send. So best practice, don't import directly into the all subscribers. A few questions coming in. So clarifying, but does every contact have a unique subscriber key? Well, if they are a contact that has been sent to, then yes, they will have a unique subscriber key. If they have not been sent to on that particular channel, then they will not yet have a subscriber key. But it's going to be mandatory. It's required for everybody to have a subscriber key on the all subscribers list. And some great information here as well. When sending from a data extension, it's going to check the status on the all subscribers before sending. And that is going to be a very important point to remember, that this is our holy grail. This is where we're going to be keeping all of that opt-in, opt-out status. This is our single source of truth for our marketers. We want to make sure that people are active, that they're happy to be emailed to. And this is how the system is going to do it. And what is the difference between a unique ID and a subscriber key? Well, your subscriber key is your unique ID on a subscriber. So your unique ID on a contact is going to be your contact key. So I will keep on going here, and we are going to switch gears a little bit. And good questions. For contact or lead, so that's a question that we had gone over a little bit before, but that's Salesforce terminology. So here we're going to be focused on Marketing Cloud. And what's the difference between a subscriber key and a contact key? That is a great question, and we'll actually switch back here to answer it. So we have our all subscribers list that we saw. We actually didn't go into our all contacts list yet. So our contacts, our subscribers are going to be people who we're talking about email with. So here we have our all subscribers list in Email Studio. That's where we went to access it. Here we're going to come into Audience Builder. This is where we are going to have access to all of our relational data. And we'll be going over that in a moment. So here we have a bunch of different things at the top that I promise are all in the presentation for a little bit later, but we're just going to go to all contacts now, because our contact builder is where we're going to be able to see that higher level. We're going to be able to see all of the different channels all coming together. So our all contacts list is here. We also have some mobile lists that we can access. Once again, I don't have any data in here because this is just a dummy account. But we can import, we can see the different channels that we have connected. Here we have Mobile Connect for SMS and MMS messages. We have Mobile Push for push notifications. We have email, we have Group Connect, which is going to be to any Group Connect apps like Facebook Messenger. And we even have WhatsApp. So that was an awesome new addition as of, I think it was January this year. that WhatsApp came in and we're now able to pull WhatsApp messages into our journeys, for example, and really be able to hit every customer on every channel. Camilla, that is a great question. It's a little bit outside of the scope of the session. So if we have some time towards the end, we'll talk a little bit more about the Marketing Cloud Connect. But otherwise, there's some great articles online. So maybe that's when we can take off into the Slack channels. So here we're going to start to look at profile attributes. So profile attributes, we're going to be talking about any sort of data that we want to be holding on our customer, because the whole point of our marketing is to gather as much useful data around our customer as possible. We can have things like a first name, their birthday, their favorite color, their favorite trailhead character, all stored on our profile center. So these profile attributes, I put in a little screenshot so that you can come back and look at this later. But we have the example of gender. We can put it in a description, which is the gender of the subscriber. And then we have all of these different attribute types that we can use. So on an attribute, we can decide whether it should be required. That means that an individual cannot save without that attribute being filled in. Hidden, so that we want to save that data on them. We want to have access to it, but we don't want anybody to see it when they're accessing their data through the profile center. And read only. So this is also going to be around our profile center. A profile center is going to be on an email. That little link that you say that you'd like to access your information, or sometimes it's even called profile center on emails. But whenever you've gone in and looked at this data that they're storing on you, and you say that you want to update your email address or update your address or update some information, that link will bring you to the profile center. And we can decide that we only want somebody to be able to see the data we're storing on them, but something like birthday, maybe, we don't want them to change. Imagine somebody coming in and knowing that there's a really great birthday coupon that your company gets out. It's a voucher for a free product. That's great. It gets them really engaged, but you don't want somebody to come in and try to trick the system. So they're going to come in and every single day they are going to update their information on the profile center, change their birthday to the next day. That way they keep getting all of those great vouchers. Well, pretty soon, if everybody catches on to that and starts to do that, you're going to have a big problem in your company. So this is where you can make the birthday read only so that they can see the information, but they can't engage with it. They'll actually have to contact you if they want that information updated. And the next part that we're going to look at is preference attributes. So profile was all around the what. We're storing different data. We're deciding what's going to be useful for us around the customer. But our preference attributes are going to be answering a yes or no question. We call that a Boolean value. It just is true or false, yes or no. And it can be a question like, do you want to receive our monthly newsletter? Would you like HTML email? Those are going to be yes or no answers that we can store on a preference center. And you can almost think of them as the lists that people can opt in and out of. So it's a great way of giving people choices, because what you don't want to have happen with your different lists is that somebody's going to opt out of everything. So it's getting to know more information about that person, and we'll see lists in a moment too, and how all of that comes to play. So here is a nice screenshot of our profile center. So you can do a little bit of branding with the brand builder in Marketing Cloud to change some colors and things like that, but otherwise this is pretty much the way it's going to look. So we have our email address. We have a few different attributes that we've added here. We have first name, last name, gender, country, and city. And somebody can come in to their profile center, see and engage with their information. And the same thing on the subscription center. So the subscription center, we have all of our available publications here. We would like them to opt in or out of our account and credit union information, or our Empower blog, or our promotional information. This is going to be available for update, and it's just that Boolean value. That is why we want a yes or no answer there, because they're just checkboxes. So we can't get a whole lot more information than that out. And it is going to be one of those use cases where you want to tell the subscribers and the customers what to expect when they're opting in and out of those lists. So whenever possible, put a word in to describe how often they can expect to get emails from you. You may be getting somebody who was really gung-ho at the beginning, signed up for absolutely everything, and now realize that they're being peppered by emails and it's just too much. Well, you don't want them to do that unsubscribe from all. I don't want any future publications, because that means you've lost them completely. But you want to give them enough options to say a monthly newsletter, a weekly news flash, or whatever that may be. So a couple of questions that have come in. How do subscribers update their profile center? Through email only, or does this need to be integrated with the site? It would be through email that you have that preference center link at the bottom, and that's going to be on your global footer. So you'll have that everywhere, unless you make any changes to it, but you do want to put that in, and you can put in a subscription center or profile center link using your AMP script or your personalization strings. Yes, and our profile center and a subscription center, the same thing. That is a very good question here. So if we come into our marketing cloud, we will hop back in, and we are going to click on the little cloud in the upper left-hand corner. This is how you get back to the home page. So as I'm demoing, since I know a lot of people here probably don't have their own account, I'm going to highlight any navigation that I can. And we're going to go back into Email Studio. So here we have our subscribers again, and we have what we call profile management and preference management. So profile management, you can see I've added some things in here. The only one that it comes up with out of the box is going to be our email address, because that's required on our all subscribers list. Everything else is bonus. So I have added our first name, our last name, an interest, an opt-in source, and a trailhead rank. We're here in a Trailblazer group. We want to know their trailhead rank too. So all of these are text fields that just happened by chance, but we can go ahead and create a birthday field to get a nice date in. So we go to create, that was the star in the upper left-hand side. And then we're going to type in birthday. We're going to go with our use case of before, that we do not want somebody to be able to come in and constantly be updating their birthday. That is no good. So here we're going to say customers' birthday used to send voucher, or maybe like a gift voucher. You always want to use a description so people internal in your organization know why you're collecting this data in the first place. It's not something that's going to be shown to customers externally. So you can change the display order as well. So if you'd like to display these in a different order, you can change those as well. And that's really handy to have. And we may say that this is read only. So they are giving us their birthday information through a form. It's getting into our system that way. We do not want them to be able to update through the profile center. So then we have our data tab. This is going to be the data type. Now notice on the profile center on the all subscribers list, it's using list functionality. So list functionality, we don't go into it very much here. You do have my list over to the side, but it is becoming legacy information as far as data management goes. So these data types, just take note that they are different from the data types on data extensions. Lists have only text, date, or numeric values. That's going to be important to remember come exam time. You can put in a default value. We do not want to assume somebody's birthday, so we're not going to do that here. And we can also say a minimum or maximum length. That is going to be grayed out because I've chosen a date. It would be especially around text or numeric. We can restrict values. So for those of you here who were using Salesforce terms, this is kind of like a pick list in Salesforce. It's going to be saying that we only want certain values to be possible. Once again, we're talking about birthdays here. So we are not going to be concerned about restricting values. We don't want somebody to have to choose between only 3 birthdays. And if you are using the Marketing Cloud Connect, then you do have the Salesforce tab where you can map these fields back to your lead and contact and back to fields on your lead and contact in Salesforce. And that's where your data gets really powerful when you start linking it with your Salesforce CRM. So here we are going to add that one in. We will see it showing up at the bottom here with our nice little description and all of our other data. And now we can preview the profile center. So we can see exactly what this would look like for an individual. I do apologize, mine, because I'm in France, it pops up in French no matter how many times I've tried to change it. So maybe one day I'll figure that one out, but it's only for the profile and subscription center. So that's why I put in screenshots. You're not expected to learn French on top of Marketing Cloud here. So it is going to have all of our information. We can engage with it here, and you can toggle back and forth between your profile center and your subscription center. So our subscription center, we don't have any lists set up. So actually, let's go ahead and do that now. We're going to say that we want to add a new list for our monthly newsletter. Now, when you're creating this list, you will have to make it a public list for it to be shown on your subscription center. That's going to be a big one when you come into troubleshooting, because if you make a list and you don't see it and your customers start coming to you saying, I don't see that list that you're talking about, this is your first place to go. Make sure that you've ticked that it's a public list so that people can see it. We'll go ahead and save, and maybe we'll create another one and use our example of a weekly news flash too. We want to give them the option of whether they'd like to get weekly or monthly information or both from us. We'd like to be as engaged with them as they'd like to be with us. So now we can go back into our profile management. And we are going to do our little preview. That should have refreshed it. And now we can see these publication lists are available for us. So we have a weekly newsletter, a monthly newsletter, a weekly news flash, or they can opt out of everything. Oh, great, Brian. Thank you for clarifying that for me. These lists, yes, they are the public lists here. They do not have anything to do with that legacy data container of our Marketing Cloud. And is there instances where you wouldn't want a list to be public? Not many. If you had a list that you wanted to maybe it was an archived list or something like that, you might want to take it off of being public, but still keep all of that data in there of who had opted into it so that you could use it later. That might be a use case of unticking that public and just basically archiving that list, but still leaving it in your system because you need to use it or you want to have it a audit trail of what they had opted into. Great. So we will keep on going for the sake of time. We do have a lot of good stuff to go through today. And we're going to switch gears a little bit. So, oh, Brian, no problem. I will look that up for you in a second. And if I don't have an answer for everybody, then I will switch over to the Slack channel on that one. So here we're going to switch over to data extensions. So yes, the lists and data extensions are distinct functionality. So they're going to have their own separate data types. The 3 data types for the lists, you were going to see a lot more for data extensions. And they were used in conjunction before, and that's where they are becoming legacy. And best practice is to use data extensions instead. There's only certain places, like we saw there, that still use list functionality. So it still exists in Marketing Cloud. It's still good to know how it works, but data extensions are the thing of the future. So our data extensions, as when I was teaching this, when lists were still in play, I would always teach it as lists being the easy way to go because it is much simpler functionality, but data extensions are your powerhouse. And that's why, as a product, Marketing Cloud has started to move towards data extensions instead. So we're going to see why in a moment. And one of the reasons is that lists, they were only around subscribers. They were only around individuals, but we want to hold a whole ton of other information in our Marketing Cloud instance as well. And it may be that that's around individuals. It may work very much like a list, but data extensions you can do so much more with. So what is a data extension in the first place? It's just a table of data. For those of you who are coming from the Salesforce world, it's going to be similar to a object in Salesforce, or a record in, an object in Salesforce where it's just a table of data. It has rows, it has columns, and that's what our data extension has too. So Salesforce side, all of our columns are fields. In data extensions, all of our columns are now attributes. So it's switching the terminology a little bit, and we're going to be talking about attributes on a data extension. So I do have a sample data extension here, and it's called Trainee. We're going to make a data extension altogether, by the way. And it has a few different attributes at the top. So you can make these attributes anything that you would like. And this is where you can make it around an individual like we see here, but it may be information that's not related to an individual at all. If we have abandoned cart information, then we may have that all sitting on a table of data, but it doesn't have a person directly related to it. Or maybe we have a table of data with more information about these cohorts, or more information about certain products or store locations. It can be SKU numbers. It can be anything that you can possibly think of can be stored in a table of data. And for those of you who have worked with customers in the past who are migrating from Excel spreadsheets, they can tell you that everything can be put into a table of data. So this is going to be what this looks like from Contact Builder. And you'll be able to tell where I'm accessing this from by the fact that I can add individual records to the data extension here. So we are going to be able to access our data extensions from Email Studio or from Contact Builder, but Contact Builder is going to be that only place where you can add individual records. Otherwise, to get data into a data extension, we have quite a few different ways. We can automate it through Automation Studio. We can do direct imports as well. We can even export this data out as well. So before we get into a demo of what data extensions are, then we're going to look at the different types of data extensions that are out there, because we said the sky is the limit. You can do whatever you would like with these data extensions. So we're going to see some different ways that we can use them. We have three types of data extensions. We have our standard data extensions. These are just going to be the basic ones. They're going to be for building a custom set of fields or attributes. Our filtered data extensions, as marketers, we are very concerned about hitting the right person at the right time. We want to filter down our audience and be able to create a target audience. We can use a filtered data extension and segment off of an existing data extension. We may have a whole big list on that first standard data extension. Filtered data extension is going to help us create little segments so that we can really make sure we're honing in on that perfect target audience. And then a random data extension is going to be our third type, and that's going to let us just randomly select people from a source data extension. So it's relatively obvious to some people, but I do like to state it anyway. You cannot choose which people you would like to get onto a random data extension. You cannot add a single individual once you've decided that it should be random. Otherwise, there would be no point in using a random one. So your random data extensions, by the way, you can segment those off either by selecting a percentage of the total data extension or by a certain number. So all of our data extensions are going to be either sendable or non-sendable, and there is a third option here that's going to be testable. So our sendable data extensions are going to be a data extension where either it has the email address on it, and that is marked as a unique identifier or primary key, or that it has a send relationship to the contact. So we will look at what that looks like in just a moment when we get into our relational data. And our non-sendable data extension, this can be anything, weather, airport codes, orders, product tables, anything you want. Things that you want to personalize somebody's experience with you, but not necessarily a person that you're sending to. So we're going to be able to pull all of this data together, and we'll see how to do that towards the end. And then our testable. So it has to be sendable to be testable. Once you click the sendable, then it can be ticked as testable as well, and that will be used for test sends in your email sends. So you may have a group of internal individuals that you'd like to look over content, check for spelling errors, make sure that everything is showing up correctly in different email clients. Well, you can do that through a testable data extension, and they will be able to be chosen as audiences for your test sends. And then, as promised, data extension attributes, we have a whole lot more to memorize here. So we have many different attributes, and on the data extensions themselves, we're going to see the date. When we set up the attribute, we'll set up the name, the data type, the default value if there is one, and any sort of maximum length that we would like. It is best practice to put in a maximum length when it makes sense, so that you don't get spam bots sending you a whole long string of characters that's going to start to take up storage space. And then you can decide whether or not this needs to be required or not. And the data types that you can use. So we saw that data type is something that we're going to be setting up. This is one way of keeping our data clean, is by choosing the correct data type. This will make sure that a value that does not fit into that data type does not get into your system. So you do not want people to be able to put in one and then spell out O and E. So this is going to be able to make sure that all of your data has the same data type. That makes it easier to engage with your data, to be able to pull out analytics, reporting, and tracking around your data. So our different types here are text, number. So text is just a string of characters. By the way, your subscriber key and your IDs are going to be text fields. Our numbers are just an integer, so those are whole numbers. Our Booleans are true and false, and our dates. So I've put in quite a bit of extra information in here for you, and I know that we're going to be sharing out these slides later, so you can come through and look at all of this later. We won't go too far into it. But our other data types as well are phone number. So this is going to be a 15-digit string and removes any non-digit strings. Our email address, that's going to be an important one. So it's looking for that @ sign and making sure that it's a valid email address. Our locale, and then a decimal as well. So within numbers, we have whole numbers, which are going to be our integers, and we have the choice of decimals as well. Where can you access the presentations? I've seen this before on the YouTube channel, so it's in the comments underneath usually. So some best practices around data extensions, because we are always going to be concerned about our best practices as we're talking about this different setup. So only create data extensions if you need them. Marketing Cloud is not meant to be your storage system for all of your data. It's really expensive to use it for that. So we're going to be focusing on only data that we need as marketers. Otherwise, we want that data to be living somewhere else, whether it is in your CRM, whether it is in a data warehouse somewhere, wherever that place is going to be, you want that to be where you're storing all of your data, just pulling what you need in for marketing. We want to make sure that if you are connecting data sources, which hopefully you are, that's part of the point of Marketing Cloud, is being product agnostic so that you can bring in all of your data sources wherever that data is living. You want to make sure that when you're mapping that data in, that your data type matches the data that you're bringing in. So if it's a text field in Salesforce field, and you're using the Marketing Cloud Connect, you're pulling that data into a data extension in Marketing Cloud. You want to make sure that that is also a text attribute in Marketing Cloud. Do make sure that your sendable data extension only has one email address. Otherwise, it gets very confusing. So you want to have only one email address there to avoid any confusion with sendable ones. If it's non-sendable, you can put multiples, but sendable, you can only have one. Filtered data extensions are typically sendable data extensions that have been filtered off with some sort of criteria. So filtered data extensions, you probably wouldn't want to create a target audience off of non-sendable data. And make sure that the subscriber key is stored as text. That is an ID field. So now we're going to go ahead and we are going to build ourselves a nice data extension. So we are in Email Studio, and I will build this in here. And that way we can see what you can and can't do from Email Studio. So we're going to go down to data extensions this time. And we have a whole bunch of them in here. So we can see those in the different screenshots. We're going to make a new one. So here's where we press create, and we can decide whether we want this to be standard, filtered, or random. We're just going to go with a good old standard one today. So we'll go ahead and create a name. So we'll say Trailblazer User Group as the name. And we don't have to put in an external key. We want our description to be something that our users recognize. Best practice is to put it in here. For the sake of time, we won't. And you can decide where you would like that data extension to be stored. So we're just going to store it in our data extensions folder, but you may have more folders to separate them out to make more sense to you. And here's where we decide if it's sendable or not. So is sendable is going to be a tick box here. And then if we want that used for test sends, so internal sends to check to make sure everything's right, then we would tick is testable here. We're just going to say that this is a sendable data extension. Here's where we get to our data retention policies. So I'm getting ahead of myself in the slide deck. We'll see this a little bit later, but since we're on it right now, data retention is going to be really important to your data quality. Data retention is going to be about how long the data that comes into this data extension should be stored for. So you can choose to leave it off. If you do, as soon as you put data into your data extension, it will show up as a new row and it will live there for forever until you come in and if you decide to manually delete it or something like that. If we turn on a data retention policy on that data extension, then we start to have some different options here. We can decide whether we would like to apply our deletion. So we're not storing this forever. Do we want to look at the individual records? Do we want to look at all records and the data extension itself? Or do we just want to look at all records as a whole? And then we're going to decide our retention period. So it can be after a certain amount of time. We can decide between days, weeks, months, and years. And if we'd like to reset on import as well. So what this is going to do is if we say our data retention policy is only 6 days, and we put a record in today and tomorrow. Well, when we get to day 6, the one that we put in today is going to be gone. And then the next day, the one that we put in the next day will be gone, and so on and so forth. It's going to be looking at them on a rolling basis as individual records. If we say every 6 days, we want to wipe this data extension clean and start over again, then we do all records. And after 6 days, it gets wiped clean and any new data is going to be after that 6 days. So it'll be on a 6-day period. If we say all records and the data extensions, then after 6 days, this whole thing gets wiped out. All of the records on it and the data extension itself. We only wanted that data extension for 6 days. We're wiping the whole thing. So here I'm going to turn it back off just for our example here. But that is really useful for your data quality and could very well be part of your Marketing Cloud Administrator exam. So then we're going to start to define our attributes. So remember, we're talking about the columns. So here we're going to have a name. I will use my kids. So we have, or sorry, let's do a first name. We'll make this a first name. It will be a text field up. And there we go. I have to toggle it back in and off because I put a value in the length field by accident. So we're going to say it has a first name, it has a last name, and an email address. So our email address is going to be of the value data type email address. And then maybe we have another value that is birthday again. Stick with this birthday example. So that'll be a date in here. So our email address is going to be what we call a primary key. So on data extensions, they also have unique identifiers, but it's not mandatory like it is on our all subscribers list. So here we're going to say that our unique identifier will be our email address here. We only want one email address. We're not going to be worried about email address sharing at this point. Again, not best practice, but just for the demo today. And that's going to be our primary key on this. For our sendable, or actually we'll do best practice and we'll put a subscriber key on here. So we're putting the subscriber key onto the data extension as well. It will be 18 digits and a text field. This one is going to be our primary key now. Oh, there we go, not nullable. So you do have the option of making it nullable, which means that it can be empty. So if we're not concerned about first names, we can make them nullable and say you can save this record without a first name, but it doesn't need to be in there. And primary keys are going to be about the unique values. So that subscriber key is going to be a unique value. Here we'll let that husband and wife share their email address. So since we said that it was a sendable data extension, we need to set up a send relationship. This is the way that we're telling the system how to match somebody to the subscribers list. So on the subscribers list, we have two unique identifiers as of right now, the subscriber key or the subscriber ID. And then the send relationship, put that back there. There we go. Then our send relationship is going to be the subscriber key over here. So this is pulling the subscriber key from the data extension and relating it to the all subscribers. Now, why do we need to do that in the first place? Well, it's going to be especially around their opt-in, opt-out information. We want a way for the system to be able to look at this data extension and verify whether or not they've opted out of all email communication with us. Even if they are on this data extension at the point of send, if they have opted out of all email and globally unsubscribed from us, then they will not be sent to. So that's going to be very important for us. We want to stay compliant, and the system does it for you. So now we have our data extension created, and we say, okay, well, now I'd like to go ahead and create some dummy data. So I'm going to go into my data extension. I'm going to see it here. I see all of the properties. I see it's used for sending, so sendable, but not testing. And then I want to start looking at some records. So I can import or export data, but I can't add an individual record. That is what we're going to be coming to Contact Builder for. So if we come back out into Audience Builder, Contact Builder, thanks for fielding all of those questions coming in. That will keep us going today. So we have our Contact Builder. We can go into our data extensions. You can still create them from here as well. But we can come in, see all of the same things before. We don't have that tracking tab. So all of our email tracking is only viewable in Email Studio there off the data extension. But on our records tab, now we can add an individual record and start to add some dummy data in. So I can put myself in here if I can spell correctly tonight. That's one of the blessings of a live demo. And then I can put my email address in. And my birthday, just put it as a random date, obviously not born this year, and my subscriber key, so whatever I would like that to be. And I'll go ahead and save. So now you can add in individual records that way. And that's just the one thing I wanted to point out there. So we are going to keep on going, and we said that we are talking about relational data. So it's great having all of this data in our system, but the power behind it is having those tables of data, but then linking them together. That's what we're going to be doing in Contact Builder. So you'll have noticed that when we were in Contact Builder, we saw a whole lot of stuff that if you were more observant than I am, because I'm not observant at all, you would have noticed that in Email Studio, you did not see all of the same options there. So in Contact Builder, this is where we're going to get that single view of a customer. We're going to get all of the interactions across any channel and really be able to personalize any of our email sends, our nurture journeys to that individual. So we have quite a few different pieces to Contact Builder. We're going to be able to configure our contacts. So this is all about determining how those processes, how Contact Builder processes our imported contact information. We're going to have our data designer. For those of you who have ever taken a Marketing Cloud class with me before, you would have heard me talk about the spider web. Data designer, for me, I think of it as a spider web, and we'll look at it in just a second. It's our next slide here. Our data extensions as well. So everything that we did creating a data extension, we can do from Contact Builder as well, including adding single records. We can do imports, and we can also set up our data sources. So we're going to see all of that. Our data designer, this is your relational data, and that's a term that I repeat over and over when I'm talking about the subject because it really is the key to understanding the data designer. We're going to have what we call attribute groups here. So attribute groups are going to be groups of data extensions that we're relating to each other. So there's some system ones. You can see Group Connect, Mobile Plus. These are all added when you purchase the product. When you make the integration, it's going to make some of these for you. Other ones like Trailblazers is one that I've created myself. So you can make your own data attributes groups, and you can do that through here. You will get a really scary message when you do it saying that any changes that you make to your data model will potentially affect all of your future journeys and email sends. And that's because it's true. So you may be actually having a reason to do it, but your data model is something that unless it's something that you actually need updated, you don't want to be coming in and making changes to it every day, because when you are, you could be changing the way that your data works and your data model that Journey Builder might be relying on as well. We also have populations here. So these are ways of segmenting audiences, and best practice is recommending around 3 populations total. So it's, for example, if you're working with an organization that has a completely different group of volunteers from their beneficiaries, well, you can make populations to segment out those groups as well. And this is where you're going to be able to do that. So we're going to hop into Data Designer at this point, because Data Designer is something that it's so much easier to see it done. This is your scary message. So we are going to say, yes, we're okay with that. We do realize the power of our actions. With great power comes great responsibility. So here we have one that I already linked. I made a Trailblazer data extension before class today. And on this, I have some different attributes. I have email, Trailblazer group, and your favorite character. So I've gone ahead and linked this data extension to our all contacts. So this is going to be accessing our contact key and really looking at all of those different channels. And I've related this on the email address field. So I'm taking the email address from our all contacts list and matching it to the email attribute on the Trailblazer. So if I come in here and actually click into this, we can see how you set this up is we would go through, create our data extension. To be able to link with, it does need to be a primary key on the data extension. So that's where our unique identifiers come in. And then we'll say our customer data is going to be the email address linking to the email address on the Trailblazer data extension. And then we can decide whether we want a one-to-one relationship or a one-to-many relationship. So here we're going to say one-to-many. If we wanted only one record over here to be matched to one record over here, then we would do a one-to-one. So since I didn't update anything, it wasn't actually prompting me to say it because it's saying, well, you didn't do anything. So then we have our data all set up here. Now I'm going to hop back into our slides because we'll show why this is important in the first place. So before we do that, we have our data sources as well. So while we're in Contact Builder, and we'll go through these different data sources, this is going to be a separate tab in Contact Builder. There's 3 different types of data sources, our system ones. So those are going to be with different integrations that we do. Mobile was one of them. Our synchronized data extension. So for example, if you are using the Marketing Cloud Connect, you can synchronize objects from Salesforce CRM into your Marketing Cloud instance. That's some really powerful stuff there. And then our custom data extensions as well. So any custom data extensions are going to be ones that you are setting up yourself. And we have some additional information. The synchronized is also where if you're using Google Analytics 360 or Audience Studio, those audiences would be synchronizing into your Marketing Cloud instance through the synchronized data extension, data sources. So just showing off here where we would go, our data sources. And here's where our system data sources, we have the Marketing Cloud Connect set up. It expired for me though, so I can actually show very much more of that. Our email application, our mobile application, because we're using Email Studio and Mobile Studio. And then we also have our predictive intelligence. So this is going to be around Einstein. Then each of these data sources is going to be a different tab at the top. So for our synchronized data extensions, right now we have the account and the contact being synchronized. And we can set up different objects. So it's not going to find anything here because my connector has broken. But otherwise, normally you would see all of those objects available for you. You can synchronize standard and custom objects out of Salesforce. And then we have our custom is going to be any custom data sources that we've connected as well. So why would we be interested in that relational data in the first place? Well, one of the use cases for it is going to be Journey Builder. Journey Builders are power tool. That's where we're going to be making all of those really rich customer journeys where we can send them down different paths, meet them on the channel that of their preference. And you can have 2 different friends signing up for the same exact journey. So maybe signing up through the same form, being inputted into this journey, and having a completely different experience based off of their personal preferences, data you're storing on them, and anything else, even their engagement with the emails. So whether they've clicked or opened an email, maybe one friend did, maybe one friend was busy and didn't check her email that day. So they could have completely different experiences there. So what we're going to be doing with our data in Journey Builder for our relational data that we've set up in the data designer is we can use it in decision splits in Journey Builder and in goals. So those are 2 really powerful functionality, and we'll go through a quick demo around how to use a decision split in Journey Builder and look to our relational data. And one of the things that I kind of breezed over just because we're short on time, but is actually important, is our spider web analogy. So the fact that you have a spider web of information, your all contacts is sitting at the middle of your spider web. Out on the outer edges of your spider web, you can have all of these tables of data being data extensions sitting out there and all connected to each other. So what we're going to be able to do with our data is look through the spider web, go down all of these different connections and pull in relevant data to that single contact. So we're looking at one individual and going through the spider web, seeing what data we're storing on them, on the other data extensions, and pulling that into our Journey Builder, for example. So for the case of this demo, I've done a little bit of pre-setup because we don't have very much time here altogether. As much as I'd love to set up a full Journey Builder with you all, We have a data extension. It's a scheduled data extension that we've set up. And now we have a decision split. So a decision split, I like to think D and D, decision data. There's two major types of splits in Journey Builder. It's going to be your decision split and your engagement split. Engagement is about how people interact with you. Decision split is about the data you're storing on them. And I hope that, let me try going back into this. It might just be that I had this open before we started and it expired on me. So we're going to come back into our journey. We saved it in advance. We were thinking on our toes there. And on this particular data extension, we are holding an attribute called favorite character. Well, if the favorite character is Astro, we want to send them an email with a nice Astro figure on it. So we want the branding to be on spot for these individuals. We can add another path here. We can rename the path to make it easier for people who are looking at this journey to come in and see it. And then we're looking into our contact data. So that's where we can think back to that relational data. We had an attribute group for Trailblazers, and we had that data extension there. Well, here's where we can go into that data extension, look at the favorite character that we're holding on that individual. And here we can say if it is Cody, then we want to send them the Cody one. We will go back to summary. We can add one more path. We have a Ruth character too. So we're going to go through to our Trailblazers data extension. And we're going to say if they're Ruth. Do notice that there are quite a few different operators available to us here. And then we're going to say that that is it. So everybody else, if they are not, I forgot to label my paths. That is one of my sticking points. I like to have a nice labeled journey. And I think everybody has their quirks when they're working in technology. So we have our nice decision splits, and now we can pull these different emails down. And if on our data extension, the value for favorite character is Astro, they get Astro. If it's Cody, they get Cody. If it's Ruth, they get Ruth. And if it's anything else, they get Cloudy, because Cloudy is going to be our catch-all. It's just for the remainder. And then we can go ahead and save that data extension, and that might be the extent of it, or we can keep on going. So for the sake of time today, we won't keep on going. But the other place where you can use that relational data, and you can only use it if it's related to the contact, is in the journey goal. So we can once again go through all contacts, go onto that Trailblazer data extension, and then we may say that we want to get up to a certain number of Ruth characters. So we want 5 people to get the Ruth email. And then you can decide whether or not once you hit that goal, when 5 people have gotten Ruth, they exit the journey. So here we're not going to do that. We're just going to leave it as a nice goal to work towards, that we want 5 people to get Ruth. So that is our little journey demo. And now we have a little bit of time left. I know we are getting up towards the end and we have some questions, so we'll try to keep this short. Our data quality is going to be all around our data retention. So it's a good thing we saw this before. On our data extensions, we can decide how long we want to store our data. Once again, Marketing Cloud is not your storage space. So you may decide that a seasonal promotion, you only want it to be there for the season, and then you're going to wipe that data extension clean so it's there for you to use next year. Also, when we're thinking about data quality, we're going to be concerned about contact deletion. There is great information on Trailhead around contact deletion and why you should not do it. It's not recommended and it's not enabled right off the bat, but it is an option to enable contact deletion and allow people to become deleted from your system. It's especially if you're starting to get up to your contact count and you're concerned about the number of contacts that you have in your system, then you may start deletion. But if you think about it, if you delete the contact, you no longer know if they're unsubscribed or if they're subscribed to you. So you can say, well, they're unsubscribed, I don't want to worry about them. But then somehow you get them back into that list or a data extension. Maybe it's from old information, they were already on there before. If they're not, if you deleted them, you don't have their unsubscribe information anymore, and you may be breaking GDPR by sending to them again. So that's one really good reason why you shouldn't just right off the bat use contact deletion. It's something to be very serious about and only use if absolutely necessary. And you do want to keep an audit log. So if you do delete contacts, you want to keep a log of that and make sure that you have some system in place that's preventing them from being reintroduced into your systems. You don't want to be breaking GDPR and contacting people who have said, I don't want to hear from you again. So once again, there's a little link down here as well to Trailhead. And all around your data quality, there's some great information here all around your contact management. And that is going to be a good one to come in and look at a little bit later on down the road. So at this point, we'll go over to some questions. I know Jayatna has a couple, I think there's 5 that we're going to share today. But here's my corny bit of encouragement for all of you. That you're all doing great being here. Glad some other people like bad puns. Hopefully I'm not getting too many eye rolls. I have my daughter for that at home. And yes, you can all do this. Keep coming to this different sessions. There's some amazing speakers that are going to be coming over the next weeks. And do use that Slack group. It's great to have a community of people who are all studying at the same time. So that's the end of mine, and I'll hand it over to you. Let me just stop my screen share.
Amazing, Vicky. You explained it in a very detailed and clear manner. I really appreciate that.
I'm glad.
I'm sure everybody is able to understand now what is a subscriber key, starting with what is a subscriber and what is a contact differences, list, data extensions. This is wonderful.
Well, I'm glad. The more people we can get certified and into Marketing Cloud, the better.
I'm sure, yeah. Once they finish all the steps, I'm sure they'll be able to finish it. So I am going to jump to the slides where we have this quiz set up. I'm going to quickly share my screen. Just give me a quick moment. Can you confirm you're able to see the presentation?
It's just starting now. It says it's still, it's loading.
Okay.
There we go. We can see quiz.
Okay. You can lead it, Vicky.
Perfect. And I do see a question that just came in, so I'll answer that real quick. How do subscriber key ID and contact ID relate? So it's subscriber key and contact key, just to have the right terminology. They should be the same thing. So that's a good question. So my question for all of you, and I'm getting some answers already before I even read it. A Marketing Cloud admin has created some profile attributes, but doesn't want the customer to see them in the profile center. How should the attributes be configured? And just a little disclaimer, this is taken from Trailhead. Awesome. I'm getting a lot of the same answers. So our different choices are mark the attribute as hidden, mark the attribute as read only, mark the attribute as a profile attribute, mark the attribute as a preference center attribute. Yes, so those of you who put in A are correct. It is a hidden attribute. So hidden means that it's hidden from the profile center. They're not going to be able to see it there. Read only is another option, but that means that they're going to be able to see it. So it's not going to fit our customer scenario here. Our question number 2, Astronomical Astros has set up an abandoned cart journey. They would like to create a separate path for customers who have more than 5 items in their carts. However, when the marketing team tries to create a decision split, they cannot locate the data. What should they troubleshoot to try to fix the problem? I'll let some answers come in. So the possible answers are ensure that the data extension is sendable, check the data extension is set up as a preference attribute, make sure the data extension is linked to the contact in Data Designer, make sure that the data is a field in Salesforce. I like when somebody's honest with their answers and just says that you're copying everybody else's. Good. We're getting some different answers in, which is good because this question I put in it as a trick question. So it is meant to get you thinking. And these are some of the types of questions that you'll see on the exam. There's a whole bunch of information here, and only some of it is going to be affecting our actual choice. So I've seen a lot of answers come in, and it seems like we're pretty well spread over A, B, and C. It is going to be C. So A is really tempting. A, make sure that the data extension is sendable. But what we're trying to do here is create a decision split. It can be with data that isn't sendable. And so here we're talking about abandoned carts. So it may just be the abandoned carts that we see. It may not have an email address against it. And that's okay. We can still use that data in our decision split as long as it's connected in our data designer. That's why we link that data into the spider web. Check that the data is set up as a preference attribute. That's meant to throw some real words at you, but that don't necessarily pertain to this situation. And make sure that the data is a field in Salesforce. Here we're talking about Marketing Cloud. We're not using the Marketing Cloud Connect. That one's going to be one that we can eliminate. So question number 3, Cloudy's Characters Marketing Cloud instance is starting to hit data storage limits. They have come to you with budgetary concerns about purchasing more storage. You've investigated and have found that there's 5 years of data being stored on the data extensions that is no longer necessary. What would you suggest? Choose 2. I'm not I do not write the exam questions, so I can't say whether this is really what an exam question would be, but it is going to be these types of scenario-based questions, yes. And it will be multiple choice as well, and they do have choose 2, choose 3 answers. Good, so I'm seeing a lot of answers coming in. Our choice A is going to be configure data retention policies on data extensions to store data for only 6 months. Oh, there we go. We've got the right answers already. That is going to be one of our right answers. So we're going to be looking at our data quality. I saw a lot of good right answers coming in, by the way. That's good to see, especially as it was the last thing we went over, so nice and fresh in our minds. Data retention is one way of being able to help with our storage space issues. And then moving data extensions that are not used for marketing purposes to another storage system, such as a data warehouse or a CRM. Once again, Marketing Cloud is not a storage space. Your CRM is there for you. Your data extensions are there for you. Delete all of your data extensions older than 1 year. You don't want to just go in and do that willy-nilly. So you want to make sure that that is actually being done for a good reason. You don't want to just say everything older than a year is not useful to me. And then move all your data extensions to list as it uses less storage. That's just not true. We've got 2 more questions to go. Can you export your data extensions? Yes, you can, Eva. What data type should you use to set the ID on a data extension? ID, Boolean, string, or text? Awesome. I'm seeing a lot of the same letters come through this time. And there are some easier answers. So I tried to give you some hard ones right off the bat to get everybody thinking, but your whole exam is not going to be those. Great. So it is going to be D, text. That is correct. And what is the unique identifier on a data extension? Is it a subscriber key, a contact key, a primary key, or an attribute key? I'm being called out on my trick questions. It is. Oh, now everybody's answers are changing after I say that. Great. So this is our last question, and it is C, a primary key. So your unique identifier, you don't need to have a primary key on a data extension. You can have a data extension with no primary keys on it. But it is going to be the unique identifier on a data extension. A subscriber key is our unique identifier on our all subscribers list. Our contact key is our unique identifier on our all contacts list. Our attribute key does not exist. I made that up. Cool. So that is it for tonight. And if anybody has any other questions, we're here and we are at time, but I know I'm free. And if anybody else is free to stick around for a little bit, then I'm more than happy to answer.
Thanks for being flexible, Vicky. And I'm sure this quiz is able to check our knowledge, twist our brain, especially tricky ones. and as you're preparing for the certification, you can expect some tricky questions like this on the exam as well. There may be some wordings that can confuse you and some terminology used, which is just to confuse. That is not appropriate for that appropriate answer as well, but that is just there to confuse.
And I didn't play nice with you guys today. Might as well make the practice harder than the actual thing, and that way you'll just go in and think it's easy.
And thanks for being flexible, Vicky. We do have a couple of questions. I gathered all the ones that I can. If we have anything left out, we can answer them during the Ask Me Anything panel. Moving on to the questions, I think I noted a few. So I think you covered this one. When a contact becomes a subscriber.
Yes, so they're going to become a subscriber on the moment of send. So when you send to them through that channel, or when they opt into communications on that channel.
That's great, Vicky. The next one, if you used a data extension in another attribute group and you try to create a new one using the same data extension, the system automatically pulls over into the new attribute group the linkages from other attribute groups. Can you decouple these data extensions in the new attribute group, or will the data extension links be affected across attribute groups? I think Ryan is referring to the contact model where we link together.
That is a good question. So I have actually not tried that myself, where I was linking data extensions across multiple data groups. But whenever you are changing the data model, then it could affect other things going on. So I'm actually just trying that in the background now. But if we want to go on to the next question, I'll let you know the answer to that.
Okay. The next one, is there a way to use synchronized data extensions in the Journey Builder?
Yes, you can. What you're going to do is filter off of a synchronized data extension and create that filter data extension. So maybe that you're using a data filter in Automation Studio to automate that happening, or it could be just a one-off filter data extension that you're using. But that would be the way to use that information in Journey Builder afterwards. Just remember to link it to your data model. So make sure that it's linked to all contacts in your spider web of the data designer.
And the next question is about the Journey Builder again. I think I can answer this one. In the meantime, you can check that out. So in that goals example, what would happen for the rest of the people once 5 people receive the root email, would the other customers receive a different email, or would the other customers receive a different email, or would the whole journey stop? If the journey gets to 5 emails in the goal, will everyone after the 5th exit the journey? Yeah, you have a great point here. So it depends on the exit criteria that is set. So if the exit criteria is set, then once the subscribers reach the goal, then they will be exited. If they haven't, if the exit criteria is not set, then they will continue through the next stages of the journey. I hope that answers. Moving on to the next one. I have noted down a few other questions.
Perfect. And I did test it out with the contact builder of pulling those data extensions into 2 different places, and it stayed in both places. So it did give me a little message here, and I'll throw it into the chat for everybody. But just to make sure that I was aware that that was happening. But it does look like that is available in both attribute groups. So you can use the same data extension in multiple places.
Thanks for quickly checking that, Vicky, the confirmation. No
problem. You learn as much from teaching the information as you do from listening to somebody teach it. So can we change the data retention policy on an existing data extension? If so, will it keep everything legacy, or will it check review everything currently in it? So yes, you can update the data retention. And yes, it is going to potentially affect data in the data extension already. So it will start with those new retention policies from the moment that you change them. Data retention policy cannot be set on larger data extensions, right? I'm not aware of a size limit on data retention. So that may be something to verify, but I haven't heard of that before.
Thanks, Vicky. I'm looking at other questions in the chat.
Oh, I see a lot of them here too. Do you want me to just start reading through them?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so are there strategies or best practices on refreshing filter data extensions, retention versus filter activities? So filtered data extensions are going to be for your one-off target audiences. So you're going to create those. You'll have to refresh them manually if you want them refreshed. And once again, manually is not a word that we like to hear with marketing automation tools. So unless that is an actual audience that you just need a one-off or maybe refreshing it 2 or 3 times, then you're going to want to set a data filter activity in Automation Studio to do that filter for you. So that would be the best practice there. As for the data retention, that's more around the data quality on the data extension once you're creating it. So that would be a little bit separate from those, and best practice is to only keep the data for as long as you need it. So what is the all contacts list that we linked to in the data extension? Did we have to load the contacts into both the all contacts and the data extension? So all contacts is going to be our master list across all different channels. So if your subscriber key is the same as your contact key, as we saw earlier with our little astro characters, then it should be correctly allowing you to see an individual customer and all of the engagements that they've had with you across all different channels. So that's our all contacts list. We linked it to the data extension to expand that information around the individual. So we're bringing our relational data in, and the data extensions hold extra data that might not be on the all contacts list. The next message is me. And then, is it better for the subscriber key to be completely random rather than just using the email address as the subscriber key? Yes. We said earlier, do not use the email address as a subscriber key. One of the reasons is that nice little husband and wife couple who share an email address. You want to be able to treat them as 2 individual people. If you are using email address as the subscriber key, then you can't have them as two individual people if that is your unique identifier. The other reason is because you want to have the same key across your all contacts and your all subscribers. So if you start to use mobile number in one place, email in another, you're losing that 360-degree view of your customer. It doesn't appear that you can automate a filter activity on an existing data extension to refresh. You can only recreate and rebuild. So your data filter activity, that's going to be something that you'd set up and run out of Automation Studio. You can just run it one-off too, but that's almost the same thing as using a filtered data extension and just refreshing it. So best would be to automate it through Automation Studio. So that's firing and refreshing your data on a regular basis.
And we have
Otherwise, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just telling we have one last question. I just put it on the slide.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I have one here in the chat still. Does the current version of the CERT exam have WhatsApp questions? I am not sure about that. Yeah, it's been a while since I took the exam, so really I can't say with any authority whatsoever around that one. On the slide here, we have in a double opt-in journey, the entry source is a Salesforce campaign. I need to update the Salesforce CRM member status to opt in the journey after an engagement split that the recipient clicked the verification link. How does the SQL query and automation need to be set up in order to have the contact update done? I have an attribute group in with a data extension and the contact. Okay, so it sounds like you're using Salesforce and the Marketing Cloud Connect. So what I would do in that case is actually there's a Salesforce specific activity in Marketing Cloud where you can add them as a campaign member. So I would use that activity rather than having it go through your Marketing Cloud. Unless there's another reason why you would be wanting that information to be just on the Marketing Cloud side, but then it would store that information back into Salesforce. I'm not sure if I read that the right way, but.
Awesome.
And
yeah,
I see one last question in the chat and then we'll call it a day. Is it okay to store profile information in data extensions rather than using profile attributes? What's the pros and cons? That's a great question. So you can store any data in a data extension, but unless you're building standard custom profile centers, you can't surface it for people to interact with on your profile center. So that would be the reason why you would use profile attributes rather than storing in a data extension if you are using the standard profile center and you want people to be able to see that information or to be able to interact with it.
Thanks much, Vicky. So thanks
Yeah,
for
no problem.
your patience and extending your availability. And today's session for sure is packed with a lot of information, and I see a lot of questions. I have never seen these many questions in any of the bootcamp sessions earlier. And I'm amazed by the trailblazers helping each other. Chris, Timber, so Kim, so many people are answering the questions in the chat window. I really appreciate that. And on the Slack channel as well, if you have any questions, please post them. And if you know any of the answers to the questions, please try to answer them. Not necessarily that only the speakers or the leaders should answer. Feel free to answer them. And about the question on the WhatsApp or any other new features that are added in each release, to my knowledge, every time a new release comes out, a few questions will be added to the exam. So make sure that you're up to date with the latest release and the new features that were added. And Vicky has already shared the slide deck. I will be sharing the link to the document in the resources channel soon after we conclude this session. And our next session is going to be on I think it's channel management, email configurations by Natasha. Natasha is also a certified trainer, and she trains people at MA Incognita. And I'm sure that's going to be a very informational session. And I hope to see you all in the next session, that is on Tuesday, 3 p.m. same time. And until then, we can keep the communication going on through the Slack channel. And thank you very much, Vicky. This has been really helpful. And you are amazing.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me and inviting me to come to speak. And yes, looking forward to connecting to all of you on other channels. And for those of you who are in Europe like me, off to have a cup of coffee or a nice cup of hot chocolate. And
Thanks,
yeah, have a good one. Bye.
Thanks everyone for joining. Have a good one. Bye.